Hi, my name is Chase Cunningham, or Dr. Cunningham if you're being formal, or Dr. Zero Trust if you're looking for things on the web. I appreciate the invite. We're going to talk to you about what I think needs to happen now, which is a rethink of cybersecurity categorically across the board. We're going to talk about sticks and carrots, which is very interesting from the concept of things we could talk about. And then we're going to talk about why this is a national security imperative. We can't keep kicking the can down the road here. So thank you very much, and let's get through this. Unfortunately, we in the United States, I would suggest, are losing the cyber war. If you don't believe that we're engaged in cyber war, cyber conflict, we do have a 10th fleet that's tasked with this. We do have offices that are set up specifically for it. And every organization everywhere is engaged in cyber conflict in some way, shape, or form. It is the only level playing battlefield on the planet. So everyone is here, and the U.S. honestly is not doing better than anyone else. I would think that we are probably doing worse because we've been at this longer than anyone else. And let's look at some of the data to kind of back this up. 44 U.S. states reported cyber incidents in 2025. Those are targeted incidents that affected the state. Substantial. Average breach has gone up every year, year over year. Actually, ours in the United States is statistically 2 times larger than our nearest friendly company or country. Nation state actors are coming after critical infrastructure. And while we're at that, go find me the definition of critical infrastructure that must be defended, because it is very mushy. Let's just put it that way. And our legislative framework is failing us on this. I've recently written an article that's been submitted and pushing its way up through a bunch of channels about legislative failings around cybersecurity. It's pretty staggering. It is clearly evident the people that are writing this legislation don't have the technical chops to actually put it in place where it's doable, which is a problem, especially since there's hundreds of them and none of them can agree on anything, but they also aren't getting cybersecurity legislation across that will actually make a difference. I'm going to make this real simple. We're going to color with crayons, and we're going to talk about how to get the fix in place. But first, let's make sure we really get through the reality. Anyone that thinks that we're winning at cyber, explain this to me. So U.S. healthcare sector broadly, 2022, you had about 113 ransomware victims, and this is from the Director of National Intelligence. 2023 goes up to 258 in the U.S. Worldwide, 389, again from the DNI. 2023 again, 630 ransomware incidents impacting healthcare worldwide. So it's going up, it's getting worse. And then 2024, providers only, even if you look at the HIPAA journal, it's 181 confirmed ransomware attacks on healthcare providers, plus 42 more on other organizations that aren't directly healthcare related. They are insurers and business associates, et cetera. This is from the HIPAA journal. Now think about how many people that affected. People. And this is a place where we have had long-term requirements in place. We've had HIPAA, we've had high trust. They know what they're doing potentially can be risky, et cetera. This is a space where if the stuff we were putting in place was making much of a difference, we would see those numbers going the other direction, not getting worse. So this means that we are not winning, which is not good for us. Additionally, if you go look at our future, which is our children, those people that are coming after us, well, it's not getting better there either. So 45 U.S. schools got hit, 2,308, that's doubling. If we take the last 3 full calendar years, 22 through 24, and we add all these things together for ransomware incidents, and then we do some deduping, yeah, you're looking at a lot of school districts and a lot of people that have been affected. 81 schools in 2022, 1,899 in 2023, 275 in 2024. So over the last 3 years, that's 6,000 U.S. schools where our kids are that have been ransomed or attacked or affected by cybersecurity operations somehow or another. And again, those are the facilities. Those are the institutions. Think about the number of children and parents and whatever else that were affected. You can't tell me that we're winning the cybersecurity game when our kids, our future, is being affected at this large of a swath. Additionally, going back to the healthcare example, people have died from cybersecurity related incidents. Ransomware operators have taken down organizations that provide things like dialysis and pharmacies and other capabilities necessary to life, including ambulance delivery, and people have died. If people are dying from cyber, we are not getting things right. What other issues do we face here? Well, incentives and legislation are woefully misaligned. None of this stuff has been useful. It's not been put in any place where anyone's actually able to act on it. And we've just basically figured out a way to business a way around all this stuff. Lawyers do what lawyers do. They figure out their ways around it. Insurers do what insurers do, etc. Compliance is a checkbox exercise now. It is. That's what people do. That's the floor. If I can get compliance, I can go on about my day. Every time somebody asks me if I'm ISO 27001, I just go, yeah. And then they go, okay, cool, and we move on. Penalties are just the cost of doing business. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute because we're all paying for it. And there is no meaningful reward for being proactive about cybersecurity. If I do cyber right, what is my win? What's my incentive to do cyber right? Other than me not getting trashed or pwned from here to eternity, what is my win for doing cyber right? As far as I know, there isn't one. It's just more stuff, more cost, more things for me to manage. That does not sound like a winning value proposition. If you've ever been worried about the consumer price index, let me show you the cyberflation index, which is a calculation I've come up with, looked at a whole bunch of different stuff, published this in a couple of books. CPI, everyone was freaking out when it was around 15%, and this was during the height of COVID, et cetera, and it was a national crisis. Cyberflation is over 25%, which is staggering. That's double, more than double in some cases. I mean, this is mind-boggling. And this cost of doing business is being passed down to us, just like what happens in regular inflation. But in cyber, it's being done in a whole bunch of different ways, and we're the ones responsible for paying for this. The businesses are not going to eat this cost, ever. That's not how business works. They'll find a way to pass it on to us, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But here's CPI, this much. Here's cyberflation. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand where the problem lies. Cyberflation per industry is also clearly evident. Healthcare, $10 million average breach costs. Guess what? You have higher bills and higher premium. Energy, cyber insurance premiums go up. Finance, banks spend $500 million annually. Guess what? There's an increase of about $1 billion on cyber that comes from their fees that they raise that we pay. And retail, $1 million losses happen every year. And guess what? They don't eat that cost. They pass it on to us by increasing the price of what we buy. This is what inflation is, but it's specific to cyber. And this happens all day, every day. Oil, gas, you name it. If they get breached, they pass those costs on to us. They don't pay for it out of pocket. There's no charities out there that are saying, well, we'll just eat the cost and do this, whatever. That's not how it works, folks. Additionally, when you're looking at the fines and all the regulatory stuff and whatever else, those lines shouldn't diverge. Those lines should be in lockstep with one another. But what you see here is that the more stuff that we put as far as breach requirements and fines and actions and whatever else, the less that actually gets paid out from companies where it hurts them most. This is the best indicator I have that fines and activities and actions and all these things that we've legislated into do not work. Because again, if they were working correctly, those things would be in lockstep. They would be pretty close to one another, not doing an absolute divergence since 2021, 2022. And guess what? That's only going to continue, because what this shows is that the companies that are in violation, that do get fined, are finding their ways to pay less out of their revenue, which is where they want to be. So this is not what we want to see. This is proof that the current model that we have, the current requirements and legislation, et cetera, does not work. It's a problem. What we're not dealing with, and these are my assertions, these are my research, my analysis, so think what you want. We are not dealing with the fundamental human behavioral needs that we must affect to actually prompt change. This is where we get things wrong. You can look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You can do a whole bunch of research, but in my research, it kind of boils down to three basic things, or the behavioral needs that we must affect in order to promote change. One, safety and survival. If I can't make you feel safe and let you know that you're going to survive, that's not me very motivating. On the flip side of that, if you're a bad person and you're doing bad things, and I let you know that the odds of you not living are going to be increased exponentially, that's good for me. You will stop doing those things. Belonging and acceptance. Everybody wants to be part of a club. Everybody wants to be in the clique. That's just how humans are wired. It's helped us survive since the dawn of time. It is what it is, but we're not dealing with that in cyber. We're just throwing more stuff on top of individuals and organizations and expecting them to adapt. And then status, competency, and autonomy. People want to do their own thing. People want to be good at what they do. They want to have capabilities. They want to be above the board and not just like more dummies that don't know what to do about a particular problem. We have got to make sure that we enable them to do those things. If our incentives are not aligned with these basic human behavioral needs, we should never expect change. No one will change when these things are not met, when they're not part of the requirements or the legislation or anything else. People will continue to do what they've been doing because none of these things are in part of that play. If it doesn't matter at the very basic behavioral side of the human being, change does not occur. That's just how change works. It's done that since cavemen crawled out of the cave and said, man, it's cold out here. I want to be warm and safe. I'm going to go build a fire and get me some pointy sticks. We need to get back to that. We only have two choices. When we're talking about behavioral needs and getting people to do things, we have two choices in the space that we can leverage. We have the carrot, which is incentivizing good behavior, right? You do good things, good rewards, safety, those behavioral needs I was talking about, or the stick. If we don't do something, or if we do malicious things or negligent things, we get punished. That's what we need to do. And it can't be both. It cannot be a wishy-washy mix of the two. It cannot be some good and some bad, whatever. If you do the right things and you comply and you follow best practices and whatever else, you win. You do good. If you don't, you get punished. If you hurt Americans and kill people with cybersecurity attacks and related things like that, bad things will happen to you. We have to punish that negative behavior because what we've done this far does not work. It is not making a difference. If you really think about it, well, where has the system not worked overall? Well, it's because fines have become budgeted operational expenses, which is what I showed you in that slide. I laugh whenever someone says that they've got fines or they've got whatever. It's the cost of doing business. That's what insurance is for. They'll find a way to write it off. Companies accept this because they call it risk, and they do this all the time in every other facet of business. Cyber is no different. They are willing to take on a risk if the calculation does what the calculation does. It's just that simple. Reactivity does not equal better outcomes. Defensive strategy, defensive thinking is reactive in nature. Being reactive does not mean things will get better. Being reactive means you're constantly reacting to things and you're not actually getting ahead of the problem. If we continue to reward reactive behavior, we should expect more reactive actions, not proactive ones. And then there is really no motivation because, like I said earlier, if I do really good in cyber and I can prove it, what is my reward? Other than me not getting pwned, what is my reward to the collective? What is my reward from the government? What is my reward from the business? Other than not sucking. That's not how you motivate people to do things above the minimum standard. There has to be some good there. You got to have enough juice for the squeeze. And look, I just wanted to put two images together because I thought carrot and stick fighting would be hilarious, and it turns out it is pretty awesome. So yes, there's my Google Veo image of what we have in our industry, which is the carrot fighting the stick. And let me give you a couple of examples of carrot fighting stick. Carrot, there's 3 million open jobs in cybersecurity. Stick, I've applied for 300 jobs, have not got one single callback. Those two are mashed together. I know people, I was talking to some folks at a college recently where we're telling them, come into cyber. It's the only negative unemployment rate there is, et cetera, blah, blah, whatever. The truth of the matter is they're not getting callbacks. They're not getting responses. So which one is it? Either we have 3 million open jobs and we're ready for people to come in and we're going to reward them and make it worth their time and effort, or it's not. And we have a problem, and it's only been engineered by certification organizations to create this narrative so they can sell more certs. It can't be both. It has to be one or the other. Mathematics, statistics, data, logic tells us this. So which one? Additionally, with carrots fighting sticks, well, if I do good in cyber, what is my carrot? Other than not getting pwned, what is my stick? My stick is, if you don't do it, we're going to punish you because we have fines that we will put on you. And if you're a small business, it might put you out of business because you can't do business when we're going to basically shut you down and dox you because you didn't comply with some requirement. That's not how we do this. Those are not well-aligned incentives. Those are not going to help anyone. And again, I just think this video is hilarious because I created it, but there you go. The carrot is actually the only way forward. We've got to change the incentive structure. Charlie Munger says that if you show me the incentives, I'll show you the outcome. That's what we're trying to get to. Businesses that do cybersecurity right and can prove it and follow along with the requirements that we all talk about, that we require them to align to, should yield a positive outcome. This makes them happier. This makes them want to put money in the right place. This actually enables cyber operations effectiveness, and it's not exceptionally difficult to do this. As a matter of fact, a lot of the things we need are already in place. Like this could be turned on really, really quickly. So I am proposing a cyber tax credit because if you want to motivate anyone in business, if you want to motivate anyone in the United States, you give them a tax credit. We do this for other things like LEED certified buildings and a whole bunch of other stuff. Why can't we do it for cyber? And let me run you through how valuable this can be. So voluntary participation, if you want to participate and you want to earn the tax credit, great. Super. That's awesome. We want you. We do independent security audits, which we have agencies that are out there that could help with this. But the majority of what we would do is basically external and wouldn't require a whole lot of work. We just have to give the agencies the title authority to do things like scan those IP addresses and tell people that they have some screwed up infrastructure. And if you do it right, you get a tax benefit. And that tax benefit, just like other tax benefits, offsets the cost of enabling that outcome. That's where we're going to get to. That makes a big difference. And just to show you how valuable tax credit systems can be, well, let's look at capital expensing incentives and equipment investment. If you notice, when you get more tax credits, tax breaks, guess what? More spending goes up. This is good for the economy. Like this is economics 101. But if we do it correctly, people will invest more in that particular technical area because they see that there's an outcome based on the tax side of it. So good thing, tax break, good thing, people doing the right thing, good thing, systems get better. Pretty simple. You could go a step and look at R&D. Well, gosh, are we giving people tax credit? Yes. Is it getting bigger and better? Yes, slowly. But hey, a little bit of progress is a lot of bit of progress. So as long as we are incentivizing that, we will get outcomes that benefit everyone on the far end of this. And if you don't see the outcomes that we're getting from tax breaks for R&D, you're not sitting around looking at the technologies that you're using or your everyday life, because that's where this stuff has come from. Again, proof, you incentivize it with taxes. People do the thing because they want that return. And lastly, like look at wind and solar. I live out in the country. I've got acres of land. I'm planning on putting a lot of wind and solar out here because there's a massive tax benefit. Now, will that help the grid? To some degree, but is there a tax benefit to me? You bet. So I will do those things. If we incentivize correctly and we reward the behavior correctly and we check and verify and validate that those things are done, people will invest in those areas and they will get better. If the grid getting more power is a good thing, well, then cybersecurity as an infrastructure at the national level becoming more safe and secure is also a good thing. And if you will invest in it and allow people to get a return on that investment, the tax side of the equation, this will work. Here's a very simple way that the validation and verification program would work. And I am not saying that this is written in stone, so don't send me hate mail on it, but just thoughts and shooting stuff over the bow. Basic stuff, right? Companies meet the enhanced security standards. We already have a bunch of those. We call them compliance requirements like ISO 27001, CMMC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. If you're an organization that says that you're those things, great, send us the documentation. The third party that we have, which I would like it to be an agency that has title authority to validate, verify, and scan to make sure that this is legit, would verify that and say, correct, we see that you have those controls in place. Well done. Here's your gold sticker. And then annually, they redo that certification. And then tax credits are issued based on a percentage of what they've spent to get to that space. This is very similar to what we currently have with most of our tax incentive programs. If you spend X to solve Y, you can get that tax write-off, which is a benefit. This can be done in cyber as well. And again, we have mountains of requirements that tell us what best practices are. And if you test to this and it's verified and validated by a third party that's independent from the loop, you're probably going to be better off than everyone else. And at the end of the day, you can't claim I didn't know when it comes back that you were admin to the internet. So then there's the negligence standard that becomes a thing. So this becomes a self-licking ice cream cone of misery if we don't do it correctly. This becomes a self-licking ice cream cone of awesome if we do it correctly. So think about LEED buildings. LEED for cyber. I call this a cyber operational effectiveness tax credit, or COTAC. You could call it something else because I'm not good at naming stuff. But anyway, third-party certified cyber posture rating tied to direct tax credits. Awesome. Modeled on LEED, which is something that we currently have. The prerequisites, the credits, a total score that yields silver, gold, and platinum. We already have that all established in LEED buildings. It can be done for cybersecurity pretty simply. The tax authority uses the certification level to apply a tiered cyber tax credit, just like with a LEED certified building. Again, we know how to do this. It works, it's in place, and it's generating plenty of revenue and income, and it's a good thing. The goal, reward real verifiable risk reduction. Not paperwork, not self-attestation, not typical shenanigans. Do the stuff, prove it, verify, validate, get a tax credit. You are safer. The grid becomes safer. Everyone gets a little bit better. A rising tide potentially does lift all ships. Governance, safeguards, and integrity, right? So the third party has to be accredited with assessors, which we've got those so that there's no cross-pollination there. We use lots of metrics because we're getting those. Ever heard of logs? We get logs for the sake of logs for the logs for the logs. Revocation and downgrade rules. If you don't do it or you fall back or you don't keep up, then guess what? You get downgraded, just like with other systems. If you do fraudulent things, you get in big time doo-doo, and we could potentially put you in jail, just like with other tax systems. Regular updates, because as threats evolve, we have the KEV, the CSV, all those things, we could push those updates. And then tax authorities only see what they need to see for the purposes of that particular tax allocation, which is something that we do all the time, every day anyway. So again, the majority of this structure already exists. This is just applying it into cyber, which would make a massive difference. So let's think of how this will work for a mid-sized manufacturer, right? Say you have 600 employees, mixed office IT, floor, or some cloud stuff, whatever. Use the industrial OT rating system and basically make sure the prerequisites are there. Get segmentation, OT monitoring, EDR training, backups, the things that are required, the best practices, those guides that we put out, NIST, et cetera, whatever. Connects their score into the scoring platform, and they get a gold rating by the auditors. The gold rating goes back, their certificate is valid for 3 years. I would say it's probably better 18 months, but hey, tax is like 3 years, as long as we check their posture. And then at the end of it, they get a 15% cyber ops tax credit. Ta-da, like there you go. So you could do this. This is very simple. This is very doable. All the technology to do it works. The people that are needed are actually already in some of these agencies. The agencies just need the title authority to do the verification validation, but it's there. And this would be good for everyone. And this would motivate folks to actually do something in cyber, not just do more because they have to, or because of a risk, or because of a failed compliance initiative, or whatever else they're afraid of. People like getting tax write-offs. Give them a tax write-off, especially when you have the apparatus, the capabilities, and the technology to verify that you can put this in place. Maryland is already doing something similar where they have an investment tax credit system, FERC 893 for utility, IRS 179 for deductions, which is a common standard tax thing. And then state programs also show that there's lots of participation in this. So it works. It's a good thing. If you don't believe me, just go look up how valuable tax incentives can be. It's big. So if we can do this in other places, why not just do it at the national level and make it a thing? Unfortunately, though, we still still need a stick. And this is mostly for the adversaries, but I would also caveat this with those organizations that engage in negligent practices. We're coming for you. And if it's not the tax credit system, it's going to be something else. But if you are negligent in cyber, your days of being able to hide and take your multi-million-dollar paydays and your golden parachutes are coming to an end. And as long as I have anything to say about it, I'm going to be coming for you because I'm not okay with that. We need to make our adversaries accountable. And yes, there are people in dark rooms with bad coffee that smell like too many farts that are getting recycled auction that are out there. I've been in those rooms. I know that they're doing yeoman's work, and I know that they're putting impact where it needs to go. However, I don't think that our current deterrence is sufficient. And one thing is we don't publicize enough of what those deterrents are. We took down a website. Great, the website will be back. Oh, we shut down this ransomware group. They'll be back in a week. Who were the ransomware operators? What were they doing? Those types of things. They're attacking our critical infrastructure. Attribution is really not good anymore. So we need better ways to do this. And people are less likely to do malicious things if you let people know that they did those things. This is why you have a most wanted list. This is why no one likes having a mugshot, stuff like that. So we got to make people accountable and identifiable. My proposal also hits people where it matters most, which is around targeted sanctions that are tied to cyber operations. Target the financial assets of the responsible parties. And I don't mean just like the state of Russia. I mean like we've done in other spaces where we target the individuals, the businesses, the entities, and we sanction them from here to eternity. And then it starts to get the point across. You freeze the accounts if they're complicit or if they're affiliates and watch what happens. It'll shut them down. Ban technology to transfers for organizations that are hostile in nature, which we got some stuff in place for that, but it's not really that great. And then coordinating where we can internationally. But I would also suggest that the U.S. should have the right to do those things if we can prove it and put it together in a smart approach and just act. Because if we wait on NATO and UN and everybody else, nothing will ever get done. When it's sanctions, it's money, and we can do those things. So to give you an idea of how valuable sanctions are, look at what's gone on with Russia. I mean, this is what's happened with Russia based on the invasions when we sanctioned those people. We basically crushed the ruble in a very short amount of time with nothing other than sanctions. So if it can work for something like the war in Ukraine and sanctioning, why couldn't it work for the cyber war that we currently deal with? And we know who these people are. We've got plenty of information about who they are and what they do and the instances and et cetera. And if it's not required to maintain TSSCI, we would be better off making it public and sanctioning them and making it known that if you mess around, you'll find out. Same thing with Libya. I mean, just look at what went on there. You sanction them correctly, you hit them where it hurts, and it drives everything through the floor. And then they changed their behavior. Muammar Gaddafi came back around. Libya changed its behavior to a high degree. So it works. I mean, look at ISIS, right? We couldn't take ISIS out with airstrikes. We tried as best as we could. Eventually, we found out the oil revenue and the other things around them, and we combined that with kinetic action, and all of a sudden, ISIS stops becoming the problem that it was. So the point here is that the capabilities, the requirements, the activities needed for this, as well as the stick side, currently exist, and all we have to do is act on it. And if we act on it correctly, we will get the outcome we're looking for. Because again, you're affecting those basic hierarchy of needs, those basic things, this one being safety and security. If you're doing bad things in cyber and we know about it, we will either affect your pocketbook or we might affect your existence on planet Earth. One of those two things will get your attention, bad guy. When sanctions are not enough, well, then guess what? If you take lives of Americans, we will take your life. And I don't ever want anyone ever to lose their life over anything. However, unfortunately, sometimes the only thing that you can do to get it across to people is basically hit where they hit you. And if Americans die because of a particular ransomware operation or something like that, I would suggest that we should basically remove whoever that operator was from the face of the planet. And however we do it would be fine. Minimal collateral damage or no collateral damage. We have these nifty weapons that we've been using to get rid of Al-Qaeda leaders and et cetera that are non-explosive in nature, and they'll go through the window of a house. I would say fling a couple of those downrange. Do that plus sanctions and watch what happens to these criminal organizations. Instead of saying, we took down your website or we got your criminal group and we only really arrested one person, take them out, shut them down, sanction them, break their back, break the bank, and they'll talk. They are on forums. They will tell each other, like, don't do this, it ain't worth it. Just watch. We need to establish the red lines even clearer, because currently, if you're not in the United States, or you're not in law enforcement, or you're not in cyber specifically, you probably don't even know what the red lines actually are. So for me, if you kill people, that's an act of war. Does that mean we're going to actively engage in kinetic conflict with a nation? No, but that means that you might be tagged as a criminal organization or a terrorist organization, which we have legal authorities around, and we might just come remove you from planet Earth or introduce you whatever God you believe in. Critical infrastructure. If you take down the entire East Coast for a few days for oil and gas, we're going to do bad things to you and your friends and your organization and your finances. And if that doesn't work, we'll do bad things to you on the kinetic side. Attribution, we will make sure that people know about all the bad things that you folks do in cyber. And we're not just going to do it in the US where we're being attacked. We're going to do it in your home country so that your family can understand, like, oh, the reason that we have a Ferrari now is because Mikhail over here is doxing daycare facilities in Omaha, Nebraska, those types of things. And maybe that will change some behavior too. It's got to be swift and decisive. And if you kill people, there will be negative outcomes for you. So be very cautious, ransomware operators and other people that are in their mom's basement drinking too much Monster and launching attacks. If you kill people, bad things will happen to you. And it won't just be, we're going to take down your website or we're going to come after your ransomware gang or whatever. We pretty much know who you are and what you're doing, and we're going to remove you from sucking up auction if we have to. The legal framework for this exists in a whole lot of different ways. Actually, the list I had was longer than I could put on a slide. Article 51, we have a self-defense right. Pentagon precedent for cyberkinetic attack equivalence is already there. NATO mutual defense does apply to the cyber domain. It's literally written in ink. There's a litany of other things that are all applicable here, but the point being, the legal framework, the requirements, all the other stuff to make this action actually occur currently exist. Again, we just have to do something about it. Ultimately, what we need at the national level is a balanced strategy, right? Carrots, lots and lots of carrots for people in the US. The stick does not work here because the stick is just the cost of doing business. And we're not going to do bad things to Americans because that's counterproductive. Carrots, tax incentives, carrots. Just keep pushing that stuff. Watch what happens. People will come around, and we have all of the needs and requirements and things in place. We should just do this. And finally, the stick, right? Sanctions and kinetic operations for adversaries. I think we need to have those types of things, not the kinetic for negligent in the U.S., but we also need those for leadership in the U.S. who is negligent in their cyber operations, command and control protocols, etc. Put some people in jail, take away their golden parachutes. Don't let them walk when they've done something knowingly negligent for a long period of time, especially when it voids all the best practices we've already validated. They shouldn't get a free pass. If we can do these things, we can start to change the game. Strategy becomes much more effective when we actually have the right incentives in place. And basically that's what I'm saying is if we do this correctly, it works because incentives are aligned with the outcomes, economic advantage for actually investing in security instead of security being the black budget hole that it just continues dumping money into. Credible deterrence externally is when people in foreign nations go, uh-oh, if we do these bad things, that doesn't work out well for us. There's plenty of historical examples of how that works out. And then ultimately, we're protecting American lives and infrastructure. If we do it correctly and we make this actually effective and operational, there is a potential for a rising tide to lift all ships because it's happening at the national level. If you want to see people motivated, do the tax thing. Watch how the motivation just jumps through the roof. Or we can continue doing what we've been doing, which hasn't been working. And the average is going to continue to go up 2x every year, year over year. Critical infrastructure is going to continue to remain vulnerable, including our children and our hospitals and our healthcare. Our adversaries are not going to care at all about anything because decades of not being punished, or the likelihood of being punished is being almost zero, versus buying Ferraris for everyone in your family. Guess which one wins? And then eventually, like Rome burns, the American competitiveness falls out because we are so busy and so inundated with cybersecurity failures, network outages, system downtimes, etc., like you've seen very recently, that we are no longer the juggernaut that we once were. If we don't do this now and we don't get ahead of it, it's not going to get better. The time for action is now. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. God bless.